So one day I decided to fix some of the damage on this car with life hacks I saw on the internet, starting with toothpaste to fix these scratches, which didn't end up working. So then we just moved on to the wheels using this black tire shine, and then tried to repair this crack on the windshield, and the shaving cream or toothpaste didn't really work. So then I just washed the entire car and really tried to actually detail it. I used this Dollar General leather cleaner on the cloth seats, and it looked really great. And then vacuumed the entire thing and used this plunger to get the dents out, but it actually got this dent out of the roof. So one day I bought a watermelon because a lot of people want to know how I made this giant 600-pound rubber band ball, and it all started with a watermelon and a lot of rubber bands. And I'm going to do it all again with this watermelon so you guys can see. I put a bunch of rubber bands on the watermelon until eventually this happens. Bam, and all the rubber bands fly together and create a little ball. And I was kind of covered in watermelon, but I had this little ball, so I was happy. We threw the watermelon at the car, and then we were ready to make this ball neat. And I spent a little while double knotting a bunch of bands around this ball until it was pretty round and neat, and bounced pretty good. And I even crushed it with the giant rubber band ball, so let me know what else I should do. So one day I bought a watermelon because a lot of people want to know how I made this giant 600-pound rubber band ball, and it all started with a watermelon and a lot of rubber bands. And I'm going to do it all again with this watermelon so you guys can see. I put a bunch of rubber bands on the watermelon until eventually this happens. Bam, and all the rubber bands fly together and create a little ball. And I was kind of covered in watermelon, but I had this little ball, so I was happy. We threw the watermelon at the car, and then we were ready to make this ball neat. And I spent a little while double knotting a bunch of bands around this ball until it was pretty round and neat, and bounced pretty good. And I even crushed it with the giant rubber band ball, so let me know what else I should do. So I'm now to rubber band ball part 67, and we actually made a couple more tiny rubber band balls. Here they are on a mini trampoline, and the big one was too big for it, so we just put it on the scale and weighed it in at 655 pounds. And now it's time to make it bigger. I dumped out a whole nother pile. Then my friend and I got to placing bands for a really long time. And the bigger this ball gets, the harder it is for it to look bigger. So we got to add a lot of bands every time. And we finished up the pile, and then I wanted to test if it would go through a doorway, and it wouldn't. It's too big now. And I failed trying to get it back on the scale, so we had to both push it on the scale and weigh it in at 679 pounds. So, like, if you want me to keep on going. So one day I went to one of those warehouses that has overstocked Amazon pallets you can buy, and I bought this one for $500 to see what was in it, like a cool mystery box. I opened it up at my warehouse, and there was these pillows, a sleeping bag, a fan, a dog bed, and this automatic dog food feeder. And this thing that we didn't know what it was, but it actually ended up being a sword. And at this point, I was already happy with my purchase. Next was some camping stuff, a Christmas tree, a trash can, a nice microwave, a not-so-nice microwave, a bottle of water, a Serta rolly chair, this thing, and this outdoor bench. And we added everything up to be worth over $1,000. Then we tested out the sword and first used the wrong side, but then destroyed a can. And comment down below if I should try to sell all this stuff or just use it. So one day I ordered this human hamster wheel to float down the creek on. I got it out and aired it all the way up to test it out and run in it. And it was kind of short, but I made it work and I could roll in it, and it was pretty cool. So then I loaded it up and took it to the creek. I put it in the water, got on it, and we were off. The only problem was the creek was pretty low and there wasn't much current that day, so I had to do a lot of spinning and tried to make it out to the current. Because further down the creek there was a little bit of a current, and I tried my best to make it to it until I was there. And once I got there, it was pretty insane in this thing. Here's the video of me and me inside, and then I just kept on going forever. No, I'm kidding. I came back and then took a nap. So one day it was rubber band ball part 68, and the rubber band ball is now almost 700 pounds, but today we're going to get it there. And somebody in the last video commented to get colored rubber bands, so I got these black rubber bands so you can see them placed on the ball. And the cool thing about two different colors is you can see them all going onto the ball. And it took us quite a while, but eventually we got it done. And the ball looks really cool now. It looks kind of three-dimensional. Look at it. The black bands are more sleek than the other ones. And the ball is so massive. Look at it in comparison to my head. Then I zeroed out the scale and put it back on, and it weighed 706 pounds. So, like, if I should keep on adding bands. So one day I bought like 1,000,000 Orbeez to dump in this inflatable pool and get in. Because I've always seen people do this kind of stuff and always wanted to try it. So here it goes. I dumped all the Orbeez out into this pool, mixed it up, and here's an hour time lapse of it growing. And this is what they looked like at the end of the hour. Yeah, they still needed to get bigger, so I came back the next day and it was completely full. Look at it. I got in the pool and the Orbeez got huge. Look at this one. Then I decided to lay down in it, move around. I moved my legs around like this, made a bunch of waves, splashed my face with Orbeez, and jumped in them. Then I dropped this rubber band ball in them and it made a pretty big splash. Here's the slow-mo and here's another drop. Like if I should fill this pool up to the top. So one day after filling a pool up with like 1,000,000 Orbeez, people kept telling me to add more, so I'm adding double. Here are all the Orbeez sitting in the water, and then the next day it looked like this. It was crazy. I fell in it, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. It was like just a really weird pool. Here I am buried in it, then jumping in it, then falling in it, then doing a flip into it, dropping this rubber band ball. Here it is again, and then moving a bunch of the Orbeez into this hamster ball to try it in that. And the problem was it was just too heavy and really hard to move. So... So one day I ordered jumbo Orbeez to see if they were that much bigger than regular Orbeez. I filled it up in this container full of water, and I didn't know how much water to add, so I just added this much, and 24 hours later, it all looked like this. They were really big. Here's a size comparison to regular Orbeez. They looked like little bouncy balls, so then I tried to bounce them, and then this one broke. So then I took this one and bounced it and broke it like this. But they look so cool, I decided to taste one. Don't try them. Then we found this clear one that turned me upside down, and this one was even more round. So let me know what else I should do with these. So I'm now to part 69 of my giant rubber band ball, and it's now over 700 pounds, but we're going to get it even bigger. I dumped out 25 pounds of bands to place on the ball, and I started placing with the help of my friend Brendan. And we actually placed 3 bands at once the whole time to make it go by a lot quicker. Until eventually we were done. I stood on it, and then tried to walk on it, and tried to walk again. It was actually kind of successful. Then I pushed it over here, dropped this ball on it, jumped on it, and then we tried to figure out how to get on the scale, and weighed it in at 727 pounds. So, like, if you want me to keep on adding bands. So one day someone commented saying I should throw these giant Orbeez at cars in the street. And I'm going to do that, but first I wanted to test some other stuff out. Throwing against the wall, dropping one, throwing one at my friend, tossing one in this pool of Orbeez and comparing them, lighting them on fire, which didn't do much. So then I tried putting them in the microwave, which didn't do much until we put it in for over 30 seconds and they all started popping. And were really hot to touch. Then I tried crushing them with this ball, look at the slow-mo, and then it was time to throw them at this car, which I think they got mad. So I just ran. So I'm now all the way to rubber band ball part 70. It knocked over all these crates. Then I zeroed out the scale and weighed it in at 730 pounds, and it was time to add a bunch more bands. So my friend Brendan and I got busy placing this entire pile, which took so long, and we ended up taking a break and coming back the next day to finish it. But eventually it was done, and the ball is now even bigger. Look at it next to my head, me jumping on it, then me rolling it to Brendan, him rolling it back even faster, then dunking on it, and we weighed it back in at 755 pounds. So, like, if you want me to keep on adding bands. So one day I filled an even bigger pool up with Orbeez. I filled the other one up with about 2 million Orbeez, and I'm going to fill this one up with millions more. And we were going to reuse the old Orbeez in this pool too, but they kind of smelled bad, so we just went with all new, and it looked like this. It was pretty insane looking and really colorful. Just millions and millions of colorful little orbs. I got in it and then splashed around, then jumped in and tried to swim across, then jumped off this mini trampoline, and I even put this inflatable zebra in there and tried to make it look like I was in a weird rap video, and fell in, like if I should add even more Orbeez. So one day I filled this pull up with Orbeez in my last video, and then people wanted me to add more. And so I did. I bought like a few million more, added a bunch more water, then came back the next day and it looked like this. And the Orbeez were a lot less watered down this time. It was just solid Orbeez for days. And when I would fall in it, I basically just got stuck, and then I tried to swim like this. Then threw some Orbeez at the camera, tried to get on this floaty, and then skateboarded this little rubber band ball into the pool. Then I tossed it way up in the air to see what the splash would look like. And here's the slow-mo. Yeah, pretty cool. Like if I should fill this car with Orbeez. So one day someone commented on my video with a pool of millions of Orbeez that I should fill this car up with Orbeez, so that's what I'm going to do. So with the help of my friend Brennan, we transferred a bunch of the Orbeez into this car. I got in, and this is what it looked like. It was really cool. The Orbeez felt like a seat cushion. Look at them flying when I was driving. It was crazy. My legs were completely underwater on Orbeez, and they were just flying everywhere. I kept on driving all around, and then I decided to open up one of the doors to see what it looked like, and it was really cool looking. And then it slammed on me, and they flew at me. I let some out here, and then ran them over, and then drove off. So it's now rubber band ball part 71, and this ball is insanely massive at 750 pounds, but we're going to make it even bigger. And this time half the bands are these half-inch bands that I've never tested before, so we'll see how they go. And the bands were just really tight, so we ended up moving the ball to see if it would make it better, and it did, because none of the bands had been placed on that side that much. And it also helped make the ball more even. But eventually, after a long time, we were done. The ball is huge. Here I am trying to stand on it and walk on it and almost fall. I dropped some Orbeez on it, threw a water balloon at it, and crushed a water balloon, and then weighed it in at 777 pounds. So like this video if you want me to keep on adding bands. So one day someone commented saying I should freeze the jumbo Orbeez, so that's what I'm going to do. I put them in the freezer, and the next day they looked like this. They were all stuck together, and it wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be. I tried putting hot water on it, and it didn't really fix it. But I ordered some more jumbo Orbeez to test another comment, which was pouring lighter fluid in to see if it would soak them and light them on fire. But when I came back the next day, it didn't soak up any of the lighter fluid. I was disappointed, but I had one more idea, pouring all these little Orbeez onto this trampoline and jumping, which it looked really cool. Then I did a flip. So one day I bought a ton of cardboard sheets at Walmart to build the biggest cardboard boat I could make while still functioning. And I used to make cardboard boats all the time, but I hadn't made one in a while, and I felt like making a huge one. I pieced the boat together, taped it up completely, taped all the flaps down, flipped it over, taped this, and then put a bunch of sheets in the bottom. And after that was taped completely, we flipped it back over and then added another sheet, taped that down fully, and then I decided to add some Flex Seal. I did this to help waterproof the boat, and then I sprayed this on there. But I ended up coming back the next day and adding another coat anyway because it felt flimsy still. After that was done drying, it was time to test it out at the creek. I put it in the water, got in, and laid down. That was the only way I could be stable. The current wasn't very strong, so I tried to row without much luck, and then I saw a leak, and the boat started to collapse in. And I kept on pushing, trying to stay afloat, but with no luck, we eventually went down, and I was never seen again. Not really, but I was pretty sad. So it's rubber band ball part 72, and the ball's a little messed up from a video that's not out yet, but it still weighs 775 pounds, so we're going to keep on adding bands. And this time I got these special blue bands. And we began fixing up the ball and making it look cooler with these blue bands. And we kept on rotating it, that way the bands would be spread more evenly, and it would be easier to place the bands. And after a very long time, we were done. I about crashed into the wall, then jumped on it, and dropped my phone. And this ball is completely insane. Here's next to the little ball next to me, and then I struggled to put it on the scale. But got it and weighed it at over 800 pounds. Like I should keep on going. So it's rubber band ball part 73, and I about knocked over a fan with it and struggled to make it over to the scale, but weighed it in at 800 pounds. But we're going to add even more bands. And the ball still looks kind of broken, so hopefully after we place all these bands, it looks a lot neater. And the ball is finally getting close to 1,000 pounds, which is what the scale maxes out at. And we kept turning the ball to make it as round as possible. And after a long while of placing bands, we were finished. And the ball does look a lot neater. I jumped on it like this. Then it accidentally moved the couch when I was trying to make it over to the scale. Brendan tried pushing it on, but failed alone. So we both had to push it, and it weighed 829 pounds. I then pushed it off and took it outside to show the cows. Yeah, they thought it was pretty cool. Like if I should keep on going. So it's rubber band ball part 74, and the ball won't fit through a doorway. It's over 800 pounds, and it's looking kind of rough. But we're on our way to 1,000 pounds, and we're going to get it there. We dumped out a bunch more bands, and we've been using this same band for a while. They still work on the ball, but we almost need bigger bands. We kept on placing until it was done. And it's actually getting hard to jump on because it's so tall. I pulled a stray band onto it, and then crushed this box, and then pulled it to the scale. And at first, the scale was acting broken, but eventually it weighed in at 842 pounds. So, like if you want me to keep on adding bands. So one day it was rubber band ball part 75, and I rolled it across the warehouse and then put it on the scale, and it weighed 842 pounds. We dumped out a whole bunch more rubber bands and got to placing. The ball is really heavy and hard to move around, so we do our best to not place the bands in the same spot and try to keep it as round as possible. We finished the pile, and the camera just doesn't do the ball justice. I've moved it to the distance to kind of get an idea of how big it is, and then I slammed into the ball, dunked on it, totally done. And then tried to move it with the hoverboard, but failed, so I spun around and put it on the scale. But we kind of broke it, and it wouldn't read. But it's probably 870. So it's rubber band ball part 76, and I tried to prove it weighs 870 pounds, but the scale's been broken, probably from the rubber band ball, but we're just going to keep adding bands anyway. We dumped out a huge pile of rubber bands and got to placing. And this really is a lot more work than it looks like, band after band for so long. We flipped it to make it cover the blue side, and then we were done. It looks really good, and it's probably within 5 pounds of 900 pounds. Here I am laying next to it and then jumping on it and trying to run on it. I pushed the ball, tried to get a run, and then fell, and then did it again. Kind of got one. Yeah, pretty cool. Like if I should keep going to 1,000. So it's giant rubber band ball part 77, and I saw these little rubber band balls at the store, so I had to buy them all and compare them to my giant 895 pound rubber band ball. Mine was a lot bigger. I opened one up like this and compared it, and yeah, mine was way bigger. We're gonna make it even bigger, and I'm hoping in the next month I can get this ball all the way to 1,000 pounds. And we noticed the ball was kind of egg shaped, and it made it hard to place bands, so we moved it and put wedges down so the ball wouldn't move and placed it like this, and it helped a lot. It really helped round out the ball and make it look a lot better. We placed the final band, and we were done. And the scale still broke, but the ball should be about 920 pounds. One day I decided to take this 500-pound pumpkin and carve it, make a jack-o'-lantern, and then do a giant elephant toothpaste experiment in it. And I just started off with a regular pumpkin carving kit, which wasn't going very well, so I started using a saw, got the top off, and it was super thick. It was insane. And we began hollowing it out using a bunch of different methods, the spoon, a shovel, the crowbar, and it all only took about 20 minutes until it was looking pretty good. And the pumpkin was ready to carve. I drew a pretty basic-looking jack-o'-lantern face and began cutting. It actually was going pretty smoothly with the knife that came in the kit. I was shocked. I cut out the nose, the eyes, and the mouth, which was the hardest part, until it was done. It looked really good, and it was time for the experiment. I poured the stuff in a bucket inside the pumpkin, and then it was ready to go. And it went really fast and shut out the eyes and everything. And for not even measuring anything, it turned out pretty good. It looked really cool. I can't believe elephants brush their teeth with this stuff. So it's giant rubber band ball part 77, and the scale doesn't really work anymore, but it's 920 pounds. We're so close to 1,000 pounds, and we're going to get it there soon. This pile weighs 25 pounds, and we placed the entire thing, which took quite a while, but eventually we were done, and I jumped on it, then sat on it, then laid next to it, then accidentally rolled it into the bang and drank it anyway, like if I should keep on going. Snell rubber band ball part 78, and the ball is so close to 1,000 pounds. The scales broke, but the ball should be about 945 pounds, and we're placing a bunch more bands. We eventually rolled the ball to a higher point, that way it would be easier to get the bands around the ball. We did this for a while until eventually we were done. This band flew in the sky. The ball should be about 970 pounds, and it's huge. My friend Brendan did this, then I fell off it onto a beanbag, and like if I should keep on going. Now rubber band ball part 81, and I bought this new scale that weighs up to 5,000 pounds. It weighed the ball in at 990 pounds, and today we're going to get it over 1,000 pounds. I also wanted to try some different strategies, these big mover bands and looping these 12-inch bands. I thought looping these 12-inch bands sounded the easiest because you could just loop them together and then wrap them around. We dumped out a bunch of bands like this and then started looping. We looped for a while and decided to go ahead and place one on, and it looked pretty good, so we kept on going until we had the entire pile finished. We ended up with these two giant links of bands. We wrapped one all the way around it, which made me kind of dizzy, and then wrapped the other one until we were done, and the ball looked pretty good. We weighed it in over 1,000 pounds finally. I was pretty excited. So now we just got to get to the new world record, like if I should keep going. So one day I found my old kangaroo shoes I hadn't seen in forever. They're supposed to make you run and jump super high. I put them on and struggled. I remember how hard they were to use. I walked for a little bit, then tried jumping, and I was struggling, so I put my hood on for safety. I then went over to the hoop, picked up a basketball, and shot it. It went right in. I guess it makes you better. But then I couldn't pick it up, so I went over to the ball and tried to see if I could really run on these. Here I am running, then dunking, and then running out in the wild, then trying to race my dog. She kind of took the lead. Then I started walking because I kind of lost my balance, but they're pretty cool. So one day I bought a 30-foot balloon to try to pop it. I covered my head, and then I got white stuff in my nose, and then tried to air it up. It was really cool, and it made like these waves. It aired up for a little while until it was completely full. I untied it and then wrapped some rubber bands around it, and look at it. I hit it, did some ripples, and then here's it next to the rubber band ball. I shot it with a Nerf gun, then shot a giant rubber band at it, punched it, let it run, hit it some more, and it wouldn't pop, so I threw a basketball at it, then flex sealed so one day on it, bam. Then got out a plunger and tossed it at it, and it went pop. Like if I should buy another one. So it's giant rubber band ball part 82, and I got a sample amount of these giant green rubber bands to test them out. They work really well, but for now I only have these rubber bands. The ball's just over 1,000 pounds, and these bands barely work anymore. They're way too tight. We had to prop the ball up as tall as possible to even fit the bands, but after a long time we were done with the entire pile. It's a little wonky, but here it is. Then here's me jumping on it, rolling around a little bit, and jumping off. And it was time to weigh it in. We got it on the scale, and it was going back and forth between 1,020 and 1,040, like if I should keep on going. One day I had Purple send me a mattress to test their famous raw egg test. They basically slam a bunch of eggs on the mattress, and no matter what, it won't break the egg. Inside the mattress was these mini mattresses that were super stretchy, because that's what they're made of. Then this mask, I opened up the mattress, unrolled it, cut open the plastic, and it aired up. It was pretty comfy. I was actually super impressed by the comfort. My dog even liked it. I had all these eggs to put it to the test. I first crushed one with the mini mattresses like that, and then I threw one at the mattress, tried to push on it, fall on it, and it just wouldn't break. So I tried on the couch as well, and it still wouldn't break. And even the rubber band ball wouldn't crush it. So then I tested the eggs, make sure they were still good. Yeah, they break. So I just chucked them as hard as I could, both at the mattress and the couch. They bounced off, and then I tried the 3-egg drop test thing. I fell flat on my back eventually, like that, and the eggs were perfectly fine, even after I fell like this. So I resorted to the 1,000-pound rubber band ball, which actually crushed them. And I was like, I'm going to take this cover off and see what's inside the mattress now. And it was actually pretty cool. I ripped this thing open, which I don't think you're supposed to do, but it felt really cool. Look at it. And it even holds the egg like this. Pretty cool mattress. So one day, about a year ago, I got this water gun that could shoot really powerful. And here's me getting shot in the back with it. It kind of hurt, but they came out with a new one. And since I broke my other one with boiling water, I decided to try it out. It's basically the same gun with a different design. Here's me acting like I was going to shoot Alex and letting him shoot me, then shooting the camera, the basketball hoop, then this can that got completely destroyed. Then I decided to fill it up and shoot my friend Brendan on full blast. I waited for him behind the bush, and eventually he came. It was fully charged up, and it hit all the way to him. Then he ran. I chased him down a little bit, then shot him again, and he shot me, and then I shot a bunch. So one day someone commented that they didn't think the giant balloon I bought was 30 feet. And yeah, I might not have had it aired up all the way, so we're going to try in this video. I got a completely new balloon, aired it up inside, but I thought it was too big to try and get to full height inside, so I tried to take it outside with a rope and the air pump attached to it. But the problem was it was way too windy, and the balloon felt like it was being vacuumed from the sky all the way up until eventually it popped. And bam, there went one really expensive balloon. So this is part 83 of my over 1,000-pound rubber band ball. I bought a bunch more of these stretchier bands to try to put on the ball because they're a lot easier than the other bands, but they're way more expensive. And I put a poll on my YouTube to see if people wanted me to keep going or cut the ball in half, and 90% say keep going, so that's what I'm going to do. And if I want to beat the world record, I'm going to have to find a cheaper way to add a lot more weight really fast. And the scale wasn't really reading right because we kept knocking it off on accident, but the ball should be around 1,050 pounds. Like to keep on going. So one day I ordered this stuff called Great Stuff, which is basically expandable foam insulation. And my goal was to build a boat out of it. Not just any boat, a cardboard boat, because a while back I had a series on TikTok where I tried to make cardboard boats float, and I was never very successful. But I used the best cardboard boat design I knew how to make, and then I was going to cover the entire outside in the Great Stuff. And hopefully it'll float. So I finished taping up the entire bottom, like this. And I already had a decent looking boat. Then we covered the entire bottom in the Great Stuff. And then later we covered the rest of the sides. And when I came back the next day, it was solid looking. And it was ready to be tested in the creek. I walked it down and then got in. And I started to float away. It was working flawlessly without any problem. So I just kept on rowing and having a good time. And then I about ran into a tree. And then I started heading out further. And it was the best boat I'd ever made. I just kept going. So one day, about a year ago, there was this trend on TikTok where people were making these abstract paintings and selling them on eBay for a high amount of money. I made these 2 on my own that ended up bidding for a lot, but never sold. But I'm going to try my luck again. I went to Hobby Lobby, got a big canvas and some paint, and I was ready to make a highly valuable art piece. I decided to model it after my giant 1,000-pound rubber band ball. I started spreading out this blue paint, then a lot more, and then just dumped a bunch, trying to fill the entire background and make it blue. And after it was done drying, I came back with the yellow with a lot of swirls, trying to make the ball as abstract as possible and look really cool. I added the green and started kind of just doing that and mixing around until it looked like that. Then I started splattering paint everywhere, the white stuff, and trying to make it look starry and cool. And it ended up looking like this. I really liked it. I took some pictures of it, made the listing, and I called it Time Ball and gave it a really abstract, bizarre meaning. Follow to keep updated. So it's rubber band ball part 84, and I got another big box with 5 5-pound bags of rubber bands. And since the bands are too big to get on the ball now, we're going to have to loop them into 2 giant strands like this. We spent about an hour doing this, looping the entire pile until we had 2 giant strands. And we didn't know the best way to go about putting them on the ball. We moved everything out of the way and then realized eventually if someone was standing on a chair and then we ran around, it was easy, but it made us really dizzy. Eventually we finished off the entire pile using this method, and then for the second pile, we moved the ball over a little bit to add bands on this side. And we figured out wrapping around like this was a lot easier and took like half the time. And the ball actually looks pretty cool now. I stood on it, then we pushed it onto the scale, and it weighs about 1,070 pounds. Like if I should keep on going. So one day I saw a TikTok of a guy making one of those spinny art paintings, and it looked really cool, like this, and I was like, I could try that and make one. I put some flex tape on some screws in wood, made the frame, and then I squirted some red, white, blue, and green in the corners until I had this. It looked pretty neat, so I took it outside and started spinning, and it kept on going and going until it looked like this. And I didn't think I was going fast enough, so I tried again, but it still looked the same. And yeah, mine wasn't quite as good as the other guys, but let me know what you think. So one day I wanted to turn my bang chain into a real bang chain and take it to the pawn shop to see what they would give me. I put my chain in a container and filled it completely up with bang. I added a little more until it looked like this, and then I let it sit in the freezer overnight. I came back and it looked like this. The chain was super icy and tasted like bang. I thawed it out in the hot tub like this until it came off. And I had an actual bang ice block on my neck ready to take to the pawn shop along with this painting. I walked in and said,
got some really cool stuff here.
I told them I was saving the best for last and got this out.
Salt lamp, rare stone.
Does it have a light that goes in?
I asked if he could give me about
$2.50 for it.
$2.50?
No.
That didn't work out, so I moved
One
on.
of a kind art piece here.
I wonder what somebody was smoking when they made that.
I was looking at my rubber band ball.
And I tried to convince him that it was
Go for
worth.
about 20K. He'll give me 10. We could resell
But I think he thought I was crazy, so I moved on to the best
it.
item I
It's
had.
an icy chain.
Does it belong to Vanilla Ice?
It's actually made out of bang.
How much you want for that?
This is some heavy ice right here. Say this is worth 10K too. Keep it in the ice chest, it won't melt.
Well, yeah. I don't think I'd give you $10 for it.
I knew it was worth way more, so I had to walk. So one day, after everyone kept commenting, telling me to take my 1,000-pound rubber band ball back to the pawn shop like I did a year ago when it was only 100 pounds, I finally went back and showed the man a picture.
Wow, that looks like a wrecking ball.
It now weighs over 1,000 pounds. Should you look at it tomorrow?
And I convinced him to come out to my warehouse tomorrow morning to tell me what he thought it was worth. So the next day, he came out.
Dylan?
There he is. Here's the ball.
That is
Everyone's
one
been
big
wanting
ball.
you to see it for a long time. Last time I brought it in the store, like only 100 pounds. Now it's 10 times the size.
Wow.
Try to move it.
There's one big ball.
I let him move it around, and then I pushed it down to show him just how heavy it actually is.
It's like a wrecking ball.
Have you thought about maybe selling it to a wrecking ball company?
I think it's like worth more and it's like artness.
How much you want for
I
it?
thought about the price and then told him how much I had in bands
Probably a
alone.
few thousand in the rubber band.
500 wouldn't buy it?
Wouldn't be worth
We can
it.
load it up if you want to sell
I
it.
think I'm just gonna have to pass and beat the world record, but
Okay.
He didn't go high enough on the ball, so I just showed him some other stuff in the shop, including this ball and this aluminum foil ball.
That's a lot of foil.
And I said he could have the aluminum ball for 100, but he said that wouldn't be a good return. So one day, after buying 2 of these 30-foot balloons, one that popped to a plunger and one that I tried to air up all the way, but the wind took a hold of it and popped it. So I bought a third one now to finally try to get it to 30 feet. I waited for a non-windy day and was sure to even wear gloves so I didn't get oil on the balloon. It kept on blowing up until eventually there were striations in the balloon and it popped.
Here it is slow-mo several times. But that's maximum height. There was even a big cloud of dust. Comment any other ideas. So one day I ordered 6 giant bags of packing peanuts to completely fill up my storm shelter with. And this is the inside of the storm shelter we're going to completely fill with all these bags. I started out with 2 to see what it would look like. Added them all in until eventually it looked like this. I then dropped the 3rd in and it kind of covered the camera. I went searching for it, found it, but here it is. It's already really full. It was crazy inside, really warm and kind of cozy. Here's me and what it looks like inside. And then it was time to add more. This is double. I got in, splashed around, and it was like 4 feet of just straight packing peanuts. I dove in like this, then tried to completely bury myself in them and hide like this. I was kind of peeking out, then I did that, and then I went even further in. I then shut the door. It was really cool. Comment any other ideas you have for the storm shelter. It's rubber band ball part 85, and I dumped out all these 12-inch rubber bands to loop them together and place them around the ball. My friend Brennan and I spent about an hour looping 25 pounds of these bands until we had 2 giant strands. And since in the last video we finally figured out the best method to loop them around, that was the easiest part. Here's the final strand, and it didn't take that long until it was completely covered. I tightened it on the ball, and this is what 25 pounds looks like. And here's a painting of the rubber band ball, then me next to it, then up close. And to be honest, I don't know how to work this super expensive scale I bought very well, but between all the pounds of bands I bought, it should weigh around 1,100 pounds. And it's a big ball. Like for me to keep going. So one day I made this random kind of abstract painting that I put on eBay and made a listing and tried to sell it for $60. And I also made this spin art painting that I also listed on eBay at $50. And I promoted them through TikTok and stuff, waited around. And after a lot of time and 5 million views later, one of the paintings went all the way up to $1,000 and the other one had 50 bids going up to $14,000. I was amazed. So I decided to message the final buyer, and this is what they said. Their little sister bid on it and they can't pay. So yeah, kind of what I expected, but I was still kind of sad. So it's rubber band ball part 86, and my giant 1,100 pound rubber band ball needs more bands to get heavier. We dumped out 25 pounds of these bands to loop around the ball. And we have to loop all the bands now because these bands are too small to stretch around the ball. And bigger bands than this are way too expensive and really hard to find. But eventually we finished looping the entire piles, which is the longest part, but then began the shortest part, which is just looping and looping until we were done. Then we started on the other one and looped it until it was done. Tied it, and here it is. We rolled it across the warehouse, rolled it off the ramp, and the ball should be around 1,125 pounds, like for me to keep going. So one day I decided to take my super powerful water gun that shoots really fast like this and fill it completely up with Vooz. I dumped out the water and then dumped Bang's Vooz energy into this bucket like this, completely full, and it smelled really good. I put the gun in it, filled it completely up, and it shot like this. And when I blasted the Vooz can, it put a big dent in it. Then I aimed, shot all 3 cans, knocked them off, then shot the ceiling, drank it, and then completely blasted that can and tried to catch some in my mouth like this, and I just got wet. So one day people were commenting how I was going to clean all these packing peanuts in my storm shelter up, so I thought I'd show a little behind the scenes of how we did it. I got some friends to help me. We got a lot of bags and boxes and just started filling them up. There was really no amazing shortcut around just scooping them all up and putting them into bags. But with the help of my friend Brennan, boxing them up and then dumping the boxes into the bags and scooping everything, after about an hour we got most of it cleaned up, and then we scooped the rest into this bag like this, and also picked a lot up by hand. And the rest is completely 100% biodegradable. I will be storing all of this. So one day, after trying to make spin art that turned out alright, but not as good as I'd hoped for, I decided to try again, because everyone kept saying all I needed to do was buy more paint. So I bought more paint and this tiny canvas to try it too. I just put a lot of blue paint on there, as you can see, then green paint, spread some yellow across the edges, and I thought it was ready. It was dripping, and when it spun, paint went everywhere, and it got up to really fast, and yeah, it didn't quite turn out how I hoped. It turned out worse than the last one, but then I tried the tiny canvas, put some paint on it, spun it, and broke it. And it turned out the exact same. I was sad. So one day I wanted to spend a day in my kangaroo shoes that are supposed to make you run really fast and jump really high. They're really hard to balance on, so this is going to be hard. I tried to pick up this basketball but fell into my ball pit, so I had to scooch all the way over to the couch to get myself up. And I was up. I then did some more everyday tasks like throwing away the trash, going upstairs, which was very hard, and using the bathroom, which was hard too. Just kidding. I washed my hands, and then I had to go downstairs by scooching, and then I decided to take my dog on a walk. It was pretty good at first. She enjoyed it. Here I am running back, her following along, and then I slipped on ice almost. I tried to relax in him for a bit and watch this awesome rubber band ball guy, and then I went to the gym, where I was going to get a sick workout with my kangaroo shoes. I had to have someone hand me the dumbbells because I couldn't bend over, and then I did some more curls, some pull-ups, some leg raises, and then I jumped down and was feeling good and motivated, so I decided to try to hit 2 plates. I went down and, no, was stuck. But no worries. I just got up and walked off in my kangaroo shoes.
It's now rubber band ball part 87. The ball is 1,100 pounds, and this is 50 pounds of rubber band. I dumped out 25 pounds of rubber bands, and me and my friend Brendan were going to loop the entire pile. He looped half the bands, and I looped half the bands until we were done, and had 2 giant piles ready to place them on the ball. We propped up the ball to its tallest form to make it easier to place them around, and then went around and around while live streaming until we had the first pile done and the second pile, and it looked like this. The ball's insane. It should weigh 1,125 pounds, like if you want me to keep on adding bands. So one day I wanted to fill this entire room completely up with packing peanuts. I poured out all these trash bags of leftover packing peanuts I had, and then got this big bag out and topped it all off until the room was completely filled, and it looked like this. It was crazy. Packing peanuts everywhere, high as the bed. I jumped in them, then got on the bed, rolled off this way, threw them up in the air, and fell on them. Then I laid down with the packing peanuts and dove off into them and shimmied around. And I appeared. Let me know what else I should do with these. It's rubber band ball part 88, and the ball weighs over 1,100 pounds. And it's going to take a very long time for us to build this ball up to the world record. So comment if you really want me to keep going. We looped 2 giant piles of rubber bands, did some jump rope with one of them, and then decided to place them on the ball. And while we're doing this, sometimes we forget about the fact that we're in front of an 1,100 pound rubber band ball. It's kind of crazy. We finished the ball, and it's huge at 1,125 pounds. Comment your ideas for it. So one day I went into my room full of packing peanuts, and I had an idea. Fill this inflatable dinosaur costume completely up with packing peanuts. I walked around, fell down, threw a bunch of packing peanuts in the air like this, and then decided to get to work. I taped up the seams and holes like this, and then just began stuffing it as much as I could. I wanted to make a completely stuffed dinosaur teddy bear, but the zipper broke, and I tried to tape it, but it didn't really work, so I just threw it on the ground and body slammed it. Yeah, let me know what else I should try. So this rubber band ball is just completely insane now. We dumped out all these bands to place on the ball and got busy looping each one. We looped the pile into 2 big strands of bands like this. It's really hard to move, but we pushed it to the center, and then we're starting to place the big loops of bands like this. And these videos cost a lot to make, so it's really helpful when you like and comment on it. My phone just doesn't do this ball justice of how big it is. It's so hard to push, and it's just so cool. And really hard to control because it weighs 1,150 pounds. So one day I wanted to try a day in Minecraft in real life. My goal was to build a boat and go fishing, but I had to use cardboard as wooden planks that I got from the villager marketplace. And I thought I was well equipped for this task because I have a long history building boats. I duct taped the cardboard together like this until I had a boat. The boat looked pretty sturdy, which is good because the water is going to be very cold. Then I just had to build a fishing pole. In Minecraft you use sticks, so I tried to collect some. This first stick was too small, so I kept on looking until eventually I found this and broke off the perfect stick. I attached it to some string like so, made a little hook, and it was ready to go fishing. I had my boat and my pole, took it down to this creek, and got in the boat. The journey started off a little wobbly, and I barely made it in the boat, but I was in and sort of floating, so I tried fishing. Cast it this way with not much luck. And a boat full of water, so I just resorted to fishing on shore with not much more luck until eventually it started pouring and I caught this carrot, which gave me the idea to plant it later to multiply my carrots. I also caught this book, which I used to enchant my fishing pole like this, which didn't actually give me much more luck, because I casted it and just caught this shoe. So one day, after trying to experience Minecraft in real life with my homemade Minecraft fishing pole and boat, I failed and sunk the boat and only caught this carrot. But in Minecraft, you can multiply your carrots by farming them, so that's what I'm going to try. I took my hoe and started hitting the land, and then I made a spot for my carrot. I pushed it in, let it sit in the ground, and then I planted another one right here. Bam. Yeah, I waited a couple Minecraft days until bam, I had way more carrots. Which gave me another idea. Tame a horse. But you normally use apples, but I'm gonna try carrots. I'm gonna make a horse my best friend. I went out and found this donkey. I gave it a carrot, and then I moved on to the horse, and it loved me. I could see the hearts forming above its head, and it was my stallion. So I'm trying to live another day like I'm in Minecraft. The first thing you do in Minecraft is chop down a tree, which wasn't really working well for me. I tried shaking it, but it didn't fall down. So the next thing was building a house, which I just tried to do with materials I found around me. So I started placing these stones like this, and then I found these random wooden planks. Yeah, totally. Made a little structure, tried to use cardboard, but it failed. So I just put this air mattress over it, and I had a little base. And next was trying to survive in the snow biome. In Minecraft, you can build a campfire, so that was my first goal, build a fire. I tried rubbing sticks together, but it wasn't working. So then I remembered flint and steel, like you actually use in Minecraft. I put some sticks, and started trying to spark it, but it wasn't really working. Until somehow it definitely lit without me using lighter, totally. I added more sticks and leaves to make the fire bigger, and remember, don't attempt this. I'm a pro. I made the fire, I was warm and ready for bed. Comment any other ideas I should try to survive Minecraft style in real life. So one day I was back at it working on my almost 1,200 pound rubber band ball. We had 25 pounds of rubber bands in front of us that we looped one by one into basically 2 giant rubber bands that we could then wrap around the ball like this, which is honestly kind of satisfying to watch. And at the end, we can also put it on the scale to see exactly what it weighs. Here's the scale that I spent a lot of money on, and it's supposed to read up to 5,000 pounds. But it doesn't read right unless you stand in this exact spot. Our first goal was just getting it to the scale, which is hard enough because it weighs over 1,200 pounds and is really hard to stop. And here was the real challenge, getting it up the ramp, because the problem is the ball is not perfectly round and it rolls everywhere. It honestly looked impossible, but we eventually got it in the exact spot. And it weighs pretty close to the estimate of around 1,200 pounds. So, like for more. So one day someone commented that I should fill my inflatable hamster ball up with all these packing peanuts that were in this room. So that's what I did. I then pushed it downstairs to get in and air it up. I got in, let it air up for a little bit, and then I got a snowball thrown at me, ow, and then I kept on airing it up until it was full. And it was really cool inside and soft. I splashed around all the packing peanuts, and then did a roll, and it didn't even hurt because all the packing peanuts cushioned my rolling. I then kept on rolling, and it looked like a popcorn machine. Here's the inside of it. And then me running as fast as I can and falling into the packing peanuts. Then I wanted to see if I could completely hide in the packing peanuts like this, and it worked. Here I am, though. I then ran a little bit more, got tired, and got out. Let me know what else I should try. So one day, someone commented on my video where I tested flex tape on a fish tank after breaking it like this, and it didn't really work. They said to try a bow and arrow in a plastic tank, so that's what I'm going to do. I got my bow out, this plastic tank, filled it all the way up, put the SpongeBob thing in there and the robo fish, and shot it. The arrow actually made a perfect hole I could try to repair. I pulled it out, and all the water was spewing out, and I kind of messed up putting the tape on, so I had to cut some more and add more quickly. The water was running out, I added a third piece, and the fish just barely survived. So one day after I filled this giant hamster ball completely up with packing peanuts, people kept commenting, telling me to fill it up completely to the top. So that's what I'm going to do. I unzipped the ball and started pouring until it reached the top. It was so full. I stepped into it and it was really deep. Put my head in and put the blower in and started airing it all the way up. Once it was aired up, I rocked around, splashed the peanuts, and then started running. You couldn't even see me because of all the packing peanuts. And remember, don't try this at home. I'm a pro. I did 2 big rolls in it, like this, and then I just started running. And you couldn't even see me until I stopped. Here I am chilling. I threw some peanuts at the camera and then ran off into the distance. So one day after someone commented that I should fill my inflatable dome with the packing peanuts too, I decided to do it. I dumped out all the trash bags full of packing peanuts like this, and then dumped the hamster ball out until I had this. A giant dome full of packing peanuts that was also blowing them everywhere. I threw some in the air and then threw some at the blower, and it would just hit them back at me like this. It was kind of cool, but some of them kind of hurt. I tried to see how much I could take. Then I fell backwards, fell forward, and did a flip. And here I am just chilling in the dome. Comment any other things I should try. So one day it was really windy, so I took my hamster ball out to try to make it fly away. I started bouncing and kicking up in the air, seeing if the wind would take it, and then I rolled over it like this. Then I attached this paracord to it to see if it would spin off into the air. It caught a little bit of wind, but I didn't have much luck, and then I just fell. I spun it one more time really fast like this, threw it, and then got on it again and slid off. I then randomly decided to fill it up with packing peanuts again, and it felt like a beanbag. And then I just aired it all the way up. And if this video gets enough likes, I'll fill it up with helium. So one day it was rubber band ball part 91, and today we're going to get it over 1,200 pounds. We opened these rubber bands perfectly normally, and then we just started looping the giant pile like we normally do. And I'm in the works to get a ton more rubber bands because we're going to have to really increase the production rate if we want to ever beat that world record. We wrapped both strands around, 1 and then 2, like this. And there you can see all the bands we placed. Looks like a ring. I jumped on the ball, stood on it, looked really cool, then pushed it forward a little bit and threw another rubber band ball at it. So, like if you want me to keep on adding rubber bands.